Have you ever heard of Ernest Hemingway? Have you ever heard about the story, The Old Man and the Sea? Hello, my name is Erica Sowers. I'm a sophomore majoring in communication disorders. I have chosen to do my project on Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway lived an exciting life from 1899 to 1962. He was an author, journalist, soldier, and adventurist. All of his stories were written describing his thrilling and dangerous adventures he experienced throughout his life. I'm going to begin my presentation by giving background information on Hemingway's life. I would then explain where he gained his inspiration to write his creative literary works, list some of his writings, and explain his contributions to American literature. So who is Ernest Hemingway? Hemingway was born on July 21st, 1899 in Oak Park, Illinois. A fun fact about Hemingway is that his mom liked to dress him up as a girl until about the age of 5. Due to this, Hemingway despised his mother. Hemingway's mother wanted to have twins, but did not have them, so she made up her own twins by dressing them in frilly clothes and bonnets. Hemingway is the second child of 6 of son of Clarence and Grace Hall Hemingway. Hemingway came from a wealthy family. His father was a doctor, while his mother was an opera singer and composed some of her own music. I'm going to show you a video from YouTube of the song Lovely Waluna, written by Hemingway's mother, Grace Hall Hemingway. Hemingway spent a majority of his time outdoors as he enjoyed fishing and hunting. In high school, Hemingway excelled academically, especially in English. He began his writing skills as he worked on his high school newspaper and yearbook. Hemingway also enjoyed playing sports such as football and boxing, as he liked the challenges of individual skills in a team sport. At the same time of Hemingway's graduation, World War I was beginning. Although Hemingway was a good student, he decided not to continue his education by going to college and decided to join the army. Unfortunately, he was rejected due to poor eyesight. After not being accepted into the army, he began his writing career as a reporter for the Kansas City Star. After being a reporter, Hemingway decided he wanted to try something new. Hemingway decided to join the Red Cross Ambulance Corps for the Italian Army. Throughout his experiences in the war, he was wounded by machine guns and a trench mortar when he was passing out weapons and supplies to the soldiers. He was awarded with the Silver Medal of Military Valor. While he was wounded, he had fallen in love with a nurse. The nurse ended up breaking his heart, encouraging his writing A Farewell to Arms. Throughout his adult life, Hemingway experienced many tragedies. He survived through anthrax, malaria, pneumonia, skin cancer, hepatitis, diabetes, 2 plane crashes that were one day apart, 3 automobile accidents, a ruptured kidney, a ruptured spleen, a ruptured liver, a crushed vertebrae, a fractured skull, suffered from second-degree burns on his legs, belly, chest, lips, left hand and right forearm, and more. He suffered through a lot. Hemingway was married 4 times throughout his life. In his later life, he suffered from hypertension, depression, alcoholism, and insomnia. Due to his depression, he attempted suicide 2 different times, once on April 21st and then again on April 23rd. On July 2nd, 1961, at 7:30 in the morning, he took his own life. Hemingway gathered his inspiration for his writings throughout his experiences in his life as he traveled. He spent a lot of time in Italy, but lived in Spain and eventually in Cuba. Hemingway also went on an African safari trip with his 3rd wife. Many characters in his stories were inspired by real people. For example, his story From Whom the Bells Toll, the character Maria was based on a real-life nurse who served in the Spanish Civil Wars. The setting of his novels were also based on the places he had lived. In addition, he enjoyed fishing and hunting and bullfighting that show up in a lot of his works. His writing style was influenced by his career as a journalist. The first key work I'm going to talk to you about is Up in Michigan. This is a story about Jim Gilmore, a blacksmith, that comes to Horton Bay and buys a blacksmith shop. Liz Coates is a young girl who works as a waitress for the Smiths who own the restaurant. Liz falls in love with Jim, who barely notices her. Jim, Smith, and Charlie go on a deer hunting trip. Liz longs for Jim while he is gone. When the hunters return, they have a few drinks to celebrate their successful trip. After supper and a few more drinks, Jim goes into the kitchen, hugs and kisses Liz, and says, "Come on for a walk." They go to the end of a dock where Jim's hands explore Liz's body. She is frightened and begs him to stop, but allows him to continue. He takes her on a cold, hard dock plank and then passes out on top of her. She gets out from under him, tries to awaken him, and finally covers him with her coat. She then walks home crying. In this story, we can see Hemingway's repetitive writing style. For example, Hemingway repeats she liked it when repeating what Liz liked about Jim. An example of this is in the story it says Liz liked how white um, Jim's teeth were. Liz liked how dark Jim's mustache was. Those were just some of the examples. The second key work I'm going to talk to you about is The Old Man in the Sea. This story Hemingway was awarded with a Pulitzer Prize. In The Old Man in the Sea, an aging Cuban fisherman struggles to make his living. He hasn't caught any fish for 84 days and has lost his apprentice Manolin. On the 85th day, Santiago takes his boat far out into the Gulf Stream, where he finds good omens and hooks a marlin so large that it begins to pull his boat. On the return journey, sharks begin to circle his boat, and though Santiago fights off several sharks, his great marlin is reduced to bones by the time he returns to the harbor. Manolin cares for him, and they plan to make a fishing trip together soon. This story is basically about a story about persisting against impossible odds and never giving up. Throughout his life, Hemingway wrote 10 novels, 4 books of nonfiction, more than 100 short stories, 400 articles, a play, and 90 poems. His most known works are The Old Man in the Sea, A Farewell to Arms, and From Whom the Bells Tolls. Although Hemingway wrote one play, it is said to not be very successful. Hemingway's writing style was simple. It provided descriptions of action to capture scenes. Many believe that he gained his style when he was a reporter for the Kansas City Star, where he relied on short sentences and energetic English to explain events. In his writing, Hemingway used an emphasis on nouns and verbs rather than adjectives and adverbs. When reading his stories, readers can notice his frequent repetition of the words and phrases. Hemingway is called to be the 20th century's most influential writer. His style was simple and spare, which influenced a generation of writers. His stories thrived on entertaining and exciting adventures that he experienced throughout his life. If there are any questions, you can leave them in the comments section below the video. This is my works cited for the information and includes the YouTube video that we watched. This is the works cited for the pictures that were throughout the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.